This is Legal Live with Eddie and Chuck Farah. They're talking the latest legal news and answering your questions. To call Legal Live and ask Eddie and Chuck a question, grab your phone and dial 855-765-1045. That's 855-765-1045.
Welcome. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Shafalika, and today I've got a special guest. Tom from Farah and Farah will be joining us today. How's it going, Tom?
Very good today.
You doing well?
Yeah.
You enjoying the beautiful Saturday?
Yeah, it's an awesome day. Finally,
Yeah.
no rain.
I know, it's lovely outside. For all you listeners out there, if you're on your drive out to the beaches or the golf courses, give us a call if you have any legal questions at 855-765-1045. Take it away, Tom. What do we got on the docket today?
Yeah, so earlier this week I was at lunch with some attorney friends, and they started talking about autonomous vehicles and self-driving vehicles and the legal issues that we're going to be dealing with in the future. And it's really a topic I hadn't really thought about, but it got me thinking because there's a lot more technology coming, and so there's going to be a lot more legal issues that we're going to have to deal with, especially in auto accident cases.
That's true.
Going forward in the future. So I kind of wanted to kind of touch base on some of that stuff that we got to kind of start thinking about now, before the future comes.
Yeah, autonomous vehicles that drive themselves. So
Yeah.
I guess the question is, if there's a wreck, who do you blame?
Yeah.
The computer?
That's definitely going to be one of the major issues. I mean, currently, the best stuff that we have, the Tesla Autopilot and the Cadillac Super Cruise are going to be level 2. But the levels go all the way up to 5, where, at the higher levels, the computers are going to be making all the decisions and driving the vehicles all themselves.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's where the problems are going to really start in trying to identify who did what when, because there is no who at that point. It's just a vehicle.
Tell me about these levels that you mentioned.
Yeah, so, there's 5 levels of driver assistance, and the level 0 is where I guess you have an old car from the 1920s and you're doing virtually everything yourself and manipulating the vehicle and even the manual transmission. As it goes up to level 1, that's what we kind of would think about from 20 years ago, where you have a regular cruise control. So it does take over a little bit, but you have to do all the operation itself. Currently, most of the stuff that we have is going to be a level 2, and that goes from anything from some adaptive cruise control, where it slows you down a little bit in front of the other vehicle, or it gives you a notification that there's a vehicle coming on the side, all the way up to the more technological ones, which would be like Cadillac Super Cruise and the Tesla, where they're making maybe even lane changes and things like that. But again, the driver is in control and can assume control whenever they want. And they're supposed to be monitoring, and those cars make the driver monitor. Cadillac will, I think, has a camera that watches you to make sure the driver is actually paying attention, and Tesla is the one where you have to be on the hand on the steering wheel in a certain amount of time. It keeps track of that for you.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that's where we are now, and that's what people are getting used to, and there's a whole bunch of safety features that those products allow for, and I think there's probably some real big benefits, and it's not to say that we got to avoid that stuff. The blind spot monitoring, obviously, cruise control, lane departure warning is really good for anybody. If you start drifting, you're getting tired, it's going to tell you or pull you back in the lane and keep you in the center.
Yeah, my dad has a car like that that'll beep at him if he crosses the little the spotted lines on the freeway.
Yeah.
It'll just beep at him, and it'll have a signal on his dashboard.
Yeah.
That tells him what direction he's crossed over.
Definitely, they do that. There's some that will actually keep you kind of in the center and try to center you in the middle of that lane. So even if you're kind of drifting inside the lane, it kind of recenters.
Wow.
I know there's one in Honda. They give you a coffee cup when you're getting tired, or you're
oh,
doesn't
that's
seem to be paying
right. They'll say,
attention.
"Would you like a cup of coffee? You've gone 250 miles.
Yeah. So
You sure you don't need a nap? There's a rest stop 2 miles ahead of you."
definitely, yeah. So they're paying attention to us, and it's getting better and better. And as that, we're really in a sort of a testing phase, I think, overall in the products, and as it develops, it's going to get more and more. But the big one is going to be the next step is the level 3. And that's when the vehicle has environmental detection capabilities, which it will start to make decisions for itself and what to do and when and what's the right move. And that's when there's much more computer control over what's going on. And so that's the next big step. Audi is going to be doing that soon. I think there's one or two others. They're going to be starting to implement that stuff in the next few years, where
Yeah.
they're making choices, seeing things, and then kind of correcting the issue further and further down the road, sort of. So it
So if
starts
it's
to get
raining, it'll prepare itself for possible hydroplaning or environmental detection. What is
well,
that,
that
like fog
other
lights
vehicles that
activate?
it thinks that that's going to be a threat
Oh,
of some way, so it'll make some movement for you to
I
protect you
see.
from it.
I
But
see.
the question is now always going to start to begin: is it making the right choices? And then also,
Hmm.
is it working right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a computer, just like any other computer. So if you've ever had a
Yeah.
computer that never had any bugs or issues, then you're, I guess, one of the lucky few
Oh my gosh, I
on
don't think
Earth.
that exists anymore these days.
No, I don't think so. So that's the next level, and then 4 is a higher automation, and then 5 is going to be full automation, where it's just you don't even need a person in the vehicle. The vehicle can drive itself and deliver its packages. This would be stuff to be
Wow.
concerned with when semi trucks are doing that type of thing and
Oh
going
my
cross
gosh, I hadn't
country.
thought about semi trucks doing that.
Yeah, then that's there is a lot of focus on things like that, where it's easier to have a truck that just drives itself without a driver that falls asleep or anything. But
Hmm.
the question is, it's a very large vehicle off on its own, and then who programmed it, who sent it in its direction, and all
Mm-hmm.
those things. That was kind of the stuff that I started thinking about when we were having that conversation, and he was bringing up. He goes, "These are issues that we haven't ever seen," and
Yeah, that's true.
we have no case law to go off of, and there really it's a new world, which is kind of unique in our business. People have
Yeah.
been driving cars for 100 years, so there's a lot of law back there that we can build off of even on a modern car.
Yeah, you can pioneer some of the new law too when things happen.
I guess unfortunately something has to happen first.
Oh, that's true. That's the bad part. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are
Wow.
some laws on the books that they're bringing in as they're doing testing on these things, and they protect things, but those laws are always brought by the companies that are trying to push these products. So
Mm-hmm.
that's always a concern. It reminds me of the Uber and Lyft when they were coming into our state a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are pushing laws for them, and they're saying that those laws are good for everybody, but really they're the advocates for themselves, and it's a business decision. So these type of laws for these new vehicles are going to be similar, where we're going to have a basic framework of what they're allowed to do. But the next question is what they're responsible for when they hurt somebody. Inevitably, it's going to happen. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so those were kind of some of the basic things that conversation kind of brought up.
So I have a question. It may be a stupid question, but right before we go to break, I want to know um, who is responsible if there is like a car that can drive itself and it drives you from work and from home to work and back, and along the way maybe it I don't know, maybe another car that isn't automated collides with your vehicle. Is there a way that your vehicle that is autonomous to some degree, are you liable for like that type of collision when somebody else may come to you? Because it's not like all of us are going to get these cars at the same time,
Yeah,
and so
that's
other human error may impact your car. Are you responsible for that?
yeah. Well, that's the question. That's what we do every day. It's
Mm.
determining responsibility. But I think with the new vehicles, there's going to be some difficulties in determining that responsibility, and we can definitely get into that of the issues that what we currently use in discovery and fact finding, and what we're probably going to have to modify and adjust for discovery and fact finding when it comes to we're doing discovery on a computer or a large corporation potentially, because that might be the responsible party here. The
Mm-hmm.
thing went wrong, and it wasn't the owner of the vehicle's problem; it was the actual programming. Then
That's
that means
interesting.
Tesla's involved or
Yeah.
somebody like that.
Let's come back and talk about that when we get back from this break. I just want to say thank you so much for Tom stepping in today. You're listening to Legal Live on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. Give us a call. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about today. Call us at 855 765 1045. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV. Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Shafalika, and I'm joined today by Tom. We're talking about autonomous vehicles, and if you have a collision, what do we do about that? So, Tom, I've got this quick question. If I'm in my autonomous vehicle and the car is driving itself and it senses a object in the roadway ahead of it, such as like from what I can see, a plastic bag or some tree debris, something small that I know as a human, I can continue driving without being impaired by this object. But the computer senses this object and decides to put on the brakes, which might cause a collision from the rear end. Who's to blame in that situation?
Yeah, well, so hopefully the computer is the answer there, but that's the difficulty is proving that, and if it was wrong, actually a wrong decision. In a normal case, what we do would be depose the defendant driver and see what they were thinking, see what they saw, and what their opinion was, why they thought that bag was actually a threat if they slammed on the brakes themselves. But here, when we have the computer making those decisions, we don't have the ability to do that. There'd have to be a download and analysis of what the computer was doing and thinking and how it calculated that. So that's the real problem here going forward. Normally we use the reasonable person standard. You say what should a person have done in that situation. But if a person's not driving the vehicle, then then it's a different question now. It's what a computer should have done in that situation, I guess. But we're not even there yet in case law or figuring those type of things out. And I think the issue with these vehicles is going to be it takes a lot of the investigatory processes that we do normally in a law in a case and kind of complicates them or makes them extremely expensive in order to find out those facts. Cameras, and actually I guess one good thing would be that a lot of these vehicles now have cameras all over the place, so we can find some stuff. Normally we're looking at surveillance cameras, dash cams, and things like that. So that would be a benefit, but there's a lot of things internally about decision making that is now gone. The people that are sitting in the vehicle itself are witnesses to what happened. Maybe they can testify that the vehicle stopped working altogether, and that would be useful. But other than that, they can't really know why it did what it did. And that's always going to be the problem, and that's always the question when we get into an accident. The first question is who did what when, and what went wrong. And so if it's taking that stuff out and making it more costly where we have to have experts do downloads and really get into it and determine if it was a bug, if it was a right decision, wrong decision, that's the problem. And the other thing I'm kind of personally worried about is that, we put a lot of trust in these type of tech companies. They seem really smart. They're making cars that drive around on their own, and our juries and people are going to give them the benefit of the doubt and blame the human driver who must have been at fault, right? Maybe they caused the accident. How could the car have done something wrong?
Interesting. Yeah, because if it takes like a team of 500 people to design this car and its technology, then the intelligence behind it versus the driver or the person who bumped into you because your car decided to stop on its own, it's so much easier to blame man versus the machine, right?
Definitely.
So,
and when we're talking to juries, we're always trying to overcome common, misconceptions about issues and ideas and things like that they hear out in the media constantly. And this would definitely be one of them. I would trust the vehicle for the most part, but I guess if it got into a really bad accident, I'd start asking questions.
yeah.
So those are some of the things that are there. And then, the one type of law that I could see this going towards is products liability. Maybe the vehicle itself malfunctioned and did something wrong, but it takes a lot to prove that. Airbag cases are ones that we deal with on a pretty regular basis nowadays.
Really?
So the airbag malfunctioned but it takes a long time and a lot of experts and a lot of investigating to figure out if it actually went wrong or if it, worked the way it was supposed to and then just somebody got hurt. So with a more complicated product, it takes even more complicated investigations. And for a single car crash, it's extremely expensive to provide that type of, legal service to prove what's going on.
Right. I also wonder about injury, like personal injury and insurance. If there was a person on a skateboard that just popped up right in front of your car before, like when a light turned green and the car decided to start going, if somebody is crossing the road as a human, okay, stop. Even if it's green, let this person walk by. Maybe they're not fully aware of their surroundings, but I see them. I'm in a vehicle. It's my responsibility not to hit them, right? But if if somebody's just scooting on by on a skateboard or a bicycle, if you have personal injury insurance, does that protect them even if your car made the decision Or does that protect you?
Well, we're not sure. Probably. The
I hope
personal
so.
injury protection insurance is going to, because that's no fault, so it doesn't matter. If the accident happened, the accident happened. That's our
Okay.
PIP law.
Okay.
But the skateboard is a great case, especially or example, especially if there was another vehicle and the car made a choice. Do I want to run into a vehicle or a person?
Oh, interesting.
That's where we start getting down the road of what's the right choice and what's the wrong choice. I'm not sure.
Right.
Obviously, all of us would have to make some type of a choice there ourselves if we had the two. But if the computer made the choice, you got to question it. But it's very difficult to question it.
Yeah, because it maybe to the computer it's one large object versus another small object. But as a human, I would prefer, I mean, not that I want to hit anyone, but I see this all the time in doing traffic reports throughout the week that, there's a somebody just kind of rails into the side of a car to avoid some other smaller or less protected crash with maybe a person or a construction cone or something like.
Exactly.
I see that all the time that they know in the back of their mind, my vehicle's metal, their vehicle's metal. I can bump them a little bit and get out of the way before hurting somebody who has no protection whatsoever.
And another question is what was the vehicle programmed to do? Is it to protect the passengers in the vehicle? If it was, then one choice might be better than the other. A hard fixed object might not be as good of a choice as a non-hard fixed object for the vehicle. So, hopefully all that programming is in there, but that's the programming itself. It becomes into question when the accident happens, and getting to that programming is the extremely difficult thing. They don't just turn this information over to us. We have lots of fights nowadays with cases. When it gets really, really complicated, there's no reason why they're just going to turn that kind of stuff over to us in an accident to figure out what happened. They're going to say, it was the right move or whatever, and file suit and then deal with it. So those are the kind of questions that really go down the road in the next 10, 15, 20 years that things will change, I would assume. I'm sure we can adapt to it as a legal community and figure it out. We kind of always do, but
that's true.
It's there, it's new, and it's, something.
Well, I wonder if our callers have anything interesting to say about this or any questions, because I feel very inspired by this topic and I'm very intrigued by the possibilities, but I wonder if anybody out there actually does have like a Tesla or a Cadillac that they can call in. Our number is 855-765-1045 if you feel like calling in. We'd love to hear from you, of course. But anyway, I think it's pretty interesting, this new technology coming in. I wonder if it's going to make us better or worse drivers as well. Because if we have a computer doing everything for us, then
less attentive,
our instincts
I guess.
Exactly.
And you start doing other things, I guess, while you're in the vehicle when you become more and more of a passenger versus the driver and the lookout itself. And honestly, they might be less and less of witnesses as they weren't paying attention. The vehicle was going off on its own, doing its own thing.
Right.
Yeah. I guess maybe eventually we won't be drivers.
Oh, no. I love driving. I love the vroom vroom. I was really sad when the push button technology developed and I bought a car that didn't have a key to it. I was so sad. I was like, wait, I like the feeling of cranking up an engine. Well, we will have more interesting conversations as we come back from this break. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah on 104.5, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Shafalika, and I'm joined by Tom. Give us a call today at 855-765-1045. Thank you so much for listening. We will be right back after this quick break with more Legal Live. Thank you for listening to Legal Live, brought to you today by Farah Farah on 104.5 WOKV Jacksonville's News and Talk. Tom and I have been discussing automated cars, and we have a caller, David from St. Johns County. You have a question about hackers. What's going on?
Hi, very interesting show so far. Really.
Thank you. It's all Tom.
I was in the computer business for 49 years, and I've always had some concerns about these cars that are getting more and more computer systems in them. Before, they were pretty much hardwired microprocessors and stuff that you couldn't mess with too easily. But it sure appears that they're getting ready to do, software updates through Wi-Fi or some other means, push kind of maintenance to these cars. Think about these big trucks that might be driverless. It just seems that there's an awful risk of hacking, doing some malicious type of problems with the vehicles, especially in cities. Causing. I'm sure there's very little loss been laid down on that stuff yet, but it kind of worries me that I could be driving one of these cars and all. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's a major issue, and it's definitely something to be worried about. So I've seen some stuff that it looks like you can already hack into vehicles and start to manipulate the autopilot systems. I've seen some videos. I think they did it with a Jeep. They were able to stop and start and accelerate the vehicle because there was the wireless access to the vehicle, and they were able to hack in and do it. And so that one's definitely a major concern. The other thing I was always thinking about is if they've hacked into the vehicle earlier for some reason. I'm not sure exactly what the reasoning would be, but if they've manipulated the software in any sort of a way, and then the vehicle starts malfunctioning, and then you have another issue later on, that could be another thing. So these vehicles will be at risk for that. And I agree, definitely cities, because there are people being in close proximity inside a building or something and just grab a car while it's driving by. So yeah, that's another concern. Definitely that we have to look into.
Well, just listening to your conversation about some of that, if a hacker is smart enough to get into the car system and do something with it, he's probably also smart enough to erase the logs and stuff that you would need to understand what actually happened, or what law enforcement would need to understand what's actually happened.
Yeah. I would think so, and I think then it also raises another negligence question: is should the vehicle have had more protections and more to prevent that? I mean, I guess once it starts happening and becomes an issue, the vehicle itself should have security in it to protect against that, because it's going to happen. Just like there's other things, you have airbags and all sorts of things that you're supposed to have nowadays to protect yourself. You're supposed to drive in a safe manner. Here would be you should have a secure vehicle so it can't be hacked and someone can't take over it. So it's a great question. It's a whole other area that these cars, as they become basically rolling computers, they're going to be susceptible just like any other computer.
Yeah, and even with the best of these software packages on to try to eliminate those kinds of problems with viruses and spyware and all that other stuff, it still happens. As I was driving and listening to you, I was imagining having one of those cars and waking up in the morning and find out it has driven itself away at the behest of somebody who hacked in it.
Yeah, that's it, right? I guess it's just a hacking thief alone. I didn't even think about that.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think about that either, David. That's brilliant. The thieves could just hack your car and drive it to their location, and you wouldn't. Oh my goodness!
You don't even have to break in. Just
you don't even have
to. Just think about a terrorist group that had that kind of skill. Obviously they have to have the skill, but then they, they're going after a bank or something, and they take all of the wireless cars and just totally block all the way around so nobody can get to them while they do their, nefarious schemes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I've just always been having been in the computer industry, been very weary about things that are updated with Wi-Fi through online services. If it's a CD or if it's a memory stick or you take it to the dealer, that's one thing. But when it's done out of thin air, almost anybody can do that.
Yeah. And then it almost brings up another insurance issue, which a lot of businesses and everything have is cybersecurity defense. That's a separate policy that will protect you from hackers. But I mean, are vehicles going to have that, or is that going to be on the regular auto policies that's there if it happens? And there's a whole separate attorneys that are involved in those type of things and evaluating what happened when, who was responsible, who needs to be notified in those type of cases. And it could be a mix of both in just one car accident. I think this is going to make just regular auto accidents potentially extremely complex, and you have a little fender bender, and and part of what the insurance industry always does in our type of cases is it's expensive to go after them. And so this is
Oh, yeah.
extremely expensive. So if you have a fender bender, is it worth it? And the answer is probably going to be no until we can figure out a way to make it worth it, for the plaintiff themselves.
Yeah, I have visions in my head right now of PC Matic and McAfee ads on TV to protect my car.
Yeah.
I think you should go into sci-fi writing, David, because you have a wonderful imagination. I'm loving this.
Well, I think the insurance industry would be happy too. More insurance on
Yeah,
the
actually, we need more people like David to come up with these ideas because they have to think of it to prepare for it before they sell these vehicles and put them on market.
Yeah.
Because the consumers will buy it just because they think, oh, it must be safer. They're so smart. They figured it all out. But if you get hacked and somebody drives your car into a wall or stops your car in the middle of a busy freeway or, anything like that, like, is there a manual override? I don't know. These vehicles aren't going to be built with a, hardwired clutch and stick shift or brakes or something that you can just take over yourself.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, the assumption is going to be that the vehicle, it was doing the right thing or something, and it's just an accident that happened. But it's really for, if somebody gets hurt, it's for the law firm to get in and to try to see, is that actually true? We see accidents where, if you just look at it right away, it seems like you can tell the whole story. But we get involved in those cases very deeply, and we look really, really in detail what happens. And a lot of times you find out there's a lot more issues going on than what just, you can kind of see initially. And here, these are really complex issues to get those facts out. It's not the kind of simple, normal discovery methods that we do on a regular basis. But.
Right. And if a vehicle go ahead, David.
Oh no, I was just going to say, computers do what their instructions tell them to do. So it's much easier to understand what they did as long as you have some records of it. While humans, of course, do things really crazy. And hopefully, as they write this software, they're really cognizant of the fact that they get into a loop back where the driver wants to do one thing, but the computer wants to do something else, and then you've got a tug of war going on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I guess as they get more complex, how much is the person going to be allowed to take over and when?
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe 9 times out of 10, the person is the wrong decision and the computer is making the right decisions. But it's, each accident is individual and you got to look at it for that, particular set of circumstances. So
wow,
you got to kind of.
Those are all great points, David. My goodness.
Well, I'll let you go. I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you so much for giving us a call. This has been fascinating. I really appreciate it. Now I'm sitting here having like visions of possible scenarios, David. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to go back and
think
buy
about your car talking to your home computer and coming up with things.
Yeah, I'm just going to go tell my little car, hey, I love you. Please don't ever hurt me like this. I'll turn the Wi-Fi off as soon as I get back in there. All right. Well, thank you so much, David. Have a wonderful weekend. Well, wow, this topic, Tom, is really inspiring a lot of crazy ideas.
Yeah.
What made you want to pick this as today's topic?
Because it really isn't something I had thought about too much until it was brought up early in the week, and then I realized it's sort of unprepared for the future, I guess, in some ways. So it kind of made me start thinking about it, and I just figured share it with the listeners, and they can start thinking about it, as it goes. And
now we're all going to have nightmares. Just kidding. But I think that this is really fascinating. And with insurance policies, are we going to have to start getting Norton antivirus claims or part of our policies, or NordVPN to protect our security of our Wi-Fi in our vehicle? That's really interesting as well. And then the tug of war that David mentioned, human versus computer, instinct versus programming. How do we do that? How do we protect against it?
And when was the right move? When was the wrong move? Is something that's always there. Those are some of the, and I'm sure there's a million more questions and issues that'll come up as we get into this. As it starts taking over and it changes the way we drive as a whole. It'll change the way we drive and the way we get into accidents, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've seen action movies that involve computerized vehicles getting hacked and taken over, and then all of a sudden the superhero guy or whatever has to jump out of the car in order to escape the problem because don't have a choice. They'll drive you right off a cliff or something. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the solution.
Oh no! Oh my goodness gracious! I'm gonna bring a helmet every time I'm inside a Tesla from now on. Anyway, we are about to go back to break. We'll be right back. If you'd like to give us a call and join in on this fascinating conversation, please do. Our phone number is 855-765-1045. You're listening to Legal Live on 104.5 WOKV. We'll be right back after this quick break. Thank you for listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Shafalika, and we are having a fascinating discussion. Tom and I were just talking about over the break the fact that in downtown Jacksonville, the JTA, the Jacksonville Transit Authority, in collaboration with the FSCJ Cecil Center campus, as well as some other programs, they are implementing this public transportation vehicle that is basically an automated and innovative public transportation. It's a small little blue and black bus. It's called Ollie 2.0. You can look it up if you'd like. And this is going to be in downtown Jacksonville. One thing that my dad just left a comment for on my phone, thank you for listening, Dad, is that when people are out partying and they're too drunk to get home, maybe this is a good thing that we have automated transport that can maybe come to them and then take them back to their safe location. I think that might be an interesting idea as well. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of upside. That's where we kind of started the conversation, saying there's really good features here, and these things are going to be helpful. That would definitely be one of them. Having a semi-autonomous vehicle in downtown that's taking you around, it just helps transportation locally. So there's tons of upside to this stuff.
And it's coming here. It's hitting home. It's really going to be here soon. It's
sooner,
already here.
Sooner than later. I've seen it outside in downtown. They were unloading it
All right.
In front of the office.
Fantastic. Well, you know what? We're going to have to go down there and try it out. It's a cute little black and white bus named Ollie 2.0, and it's already here in downtown Jacksonville. We do have a caller, by the way. Douglas is calling in and wants to continue our conversation about hacking cars. Let's do it. What's up, Douglas?
Hi there. Just so you know that I'm a white hat, not a black hat hacker person.
What does
and
that
electronics technician.
Good
Well,
hacker.
meaning that I'm on the good side of things.
Okay, well, thank you for your
Okay,
service.
so-
Need good hackers to know what the bad hackers will do.
Okay.
Right, and you can thank your tax dollars. The military trained me. I specialize in communications. I'm an aviation electronics technician. I'm no longer in the service, but I still have the knowledge. You don't need to break a sweat trying to hack those artificial intelligence. They're driven by GPS, which is everybody's familiar with that. All I would have to do is create what's called a spark gap generator. And basically that synthesizes the same thing as lightning, which produces a radio frequency that's just a big batch of noise. And so in turn, what I could do is with that spark gap generator is I would disrupt the communication system with the GPS and all other communications that might be attached to it, the Wi-Fi, that kind of thing, by creating just a really noisy radio signal. And in turn, that artificial intelligence vehicle would run amok.
Oh, my
So,
goodness.
Yeah, so that's something to think about. I could even burglarize your home with your wireless cameras by using the same system.
Douglas, oh no! Oh no!
But he wouldn't
You're
do
a white
that 'cause
hat.
he's
You're
a white hat.
The force is supposed to be good with you. Stay. Oh my
So
gosh.
anyway, I
Okay.
won't tell you how to make one, but it's very simple. and by law, you can have one, but you can't use one. Isn't that amazing?
Wow, by law, the law. What do you think about that,
So
Tom?
it's worse than we think.
Oh no.
So anyway, God bless. And what it all boils down to is in your security systems, go hardwire, because there's ways that you can, if somebody wanted to cut the wires, there's a circuit that would indicate that it's been disrupted, and then the alarm would go off. That's the secret to it all.
Wow. Well, I have a question for you, Douglas.
Sure.
We had another caller just call in, just had a concern about using this type of hacking on motorcycles with AI or automated motorcycles. What do you think about that?
It would be the same thing. All I would be doing is disrupting the guidance system, which is the GPS. That's the grand poobah that everybody uses. Your when you're trying to even your phone, and basically what you're creating is a simulated lightning bolt. And you're familiar when the lightning strikes and everything flinches and goes out of whack. It's just a big, dirty radio signal. So a lot of our wireless features and automations and all that, and EMP basically does the same thing. But at the same time with an EMP, there's a surge of basically electricity, and that's why things can possibly get fried.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have to be concerned with EMP. But the initial part of an EMP is just a giant, dirty radio signal.
Oh, my goodness. I see. So it seems like it's relatively simple. Oh, no.
Well, what it's boiling down to is we're relying upon our satellite systems for guidance.
Right.
Now, as artificial intelligence begins to learn, then eventually your roadways and that kind of thing. But see, when it's just like the old stories when you have a GPS and it wants to take you over a bridge that doesn't exist, or it's half a bridge.
Yeah.
So then you would have to have so much updates or have the artificial intelligence to a point where it can learn the changes that have taken place in your roadways.
That's right.
Now there's other methods that could be used too, is where which they're actually using a program to recycle glass, but they're light illuminating little the white dots on the highway. They're using recycled glass and LEDs that are solar powered, and so it lights up those dots. Well, those could actually have a little magnet of sorts, and they could use that as a tracking system, pull off the magnetics, and that would be a little more difficult to try to disrupt.
That's a smart idea. Okay, wow. Food for thought.
There's a lot.
Douglas and David are brilliant thinkers, and I will definitely not be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to be pondering this all weekend long. Do you have anything you'd like to wrap up with, Tom, for the end of this conversation? Can we get to a happy note? Is this going to be a good thing, or I don't know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think all these things are going to be good in the long run. You got to find the bad issues and make sure that that's not the focus of this stuff. These vehicles are definitely going to be useful and safe for all of us, I believe, in the future.
Yeah, we just we'll see where it takes us in the future. This is going to be fascinating. Thank you for listening to today's show and calling in. You've been listening to Legal Live on 104.5, Jacksonville's News and Talk. This is brought to you by Farah Farah, and thank you so much, Tom, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Great to be here.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again. We'll be back on noon next Saturday on 104.5 WOKV.
Ready to lead the way to your future? That's exactly what you'll do at the University of Florida Online, where you're part of a vibrant community of Gators who are focused on changing the world. Not only do you get access to the University of Florida curriculum and all the support you need to succeed, but you can take pride in knowing you're at the #1 ranked online bachelor's program in the country. To learn more or to apply, visit ufonline.ufl.edu.